Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Eternal Spring. I'm Paul Thurrott, and I am here, as always, this time in Mexico City with my wife, Stephanie. Hello.
Yep. Hello, everybody.
We've been kind of obsessing over the Michelin Guide stuff, but with them now recognizing how great the food scene here is here in Mexico, we were getting worried that some of our favorite places might be hard to get into, that we might need reservations, more often than has been the case in the past. Mexico's unique. Not everything is the same here as it is in the US or elsewhere. Um, but one of the things we wanted to see when we got here was, has anything changed? Are our favorite places overrun by tourists and expats and that kind of thing?
Yeah, exactly. Um, and with the disclaimer that we've only been here a few days so far,
Yeah.
we haven't seen anything unusual. We haven't run into, any big crowds or
Mm-hmm.
trouble getting into any places. Um, and then we also realized that there were Michelin recommended restaurants that we had already been to
Yeah.
and that we had forgotten or that we didn't recognize the name of them. So for today, for example, I wanted to try one of the Michelin recommended taquerias here in Roma Norte. I thought it was new to us, and then we realized we've actually already been there twice in the past.
Yeah. We were walking down the street and I was like, I think I know exactly where we're going.
So,
Uh, so we'll keep trying. We'll see whether Michelin impacts these places they've recommended, right? But in the meantime, we've been working in the book, and one of the data points we're providing is actually related to this topic, and that's whether or not you need to make a reservation, right? Not just for restaurants, bars, but also for sites and activities, things like the canal boats at Xochimilco, for example, or the Frida Kahlo Museum or whatever. And, the book will be a more definitive resource, obviously, but we thought it was worth at least a quick overview in video form.
mhm, right, yes. Um, and so far, we found most places here don't require reservations, and you could certainly get through your trip here and not go hungry and not make any reservations. But there are some important exceptions that you should know about. And we are hoping that Michelin does not make it more necessary to make reservations or
Really
to
stressed over this
have to
Michelin
book
thing.
them.
Yeah, I mean, maybe so we should start there, obviously. So let's talk about some of the restaurant and bar stuff.
Mhm. Yeah. Um, it's similar to it is in the United States and probably in other countries. The most expensive places are going to be the places that are most likely to require reservation. The biggest names here in Mexico City, like Pujol and Quintonil, often require a month or more advance notice to make a reservation, especially for dinner. So
Yeah.
if you really want to go to one of those top end restaurants, as soon as you book your trip, you're going to want to try to book your reservation right
Right.
away. Um, and then you have what we're kind of calling tier two restaurants, places like Maximo and Rosetta in Roma Norte, where you need a reservation, but you could probably walk in or get a reservation a day or two before you wanted to be there, depending on when you wanted to eat. And it really depends once you get into that level. One of our favorite restaurants is Meritoro in Condesa, and
Yeah.
it's at the same level, but we've never had a problem just showing up and getting a table right away without a reservation.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of this is just common sense. If it's important to you, if it's an expensive place, if it's a weekend night, any combination of these things, just get a reservation, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we always get a reservation for Azul, one of our favorite places, and I think some of those times you could have just walked in, but you
Mm-hmm.
want to make sure you get in, right?
Exactly.
But how do you make a reservation here in Mexico?
I usually book the reservations and I usually go to the restaurant's website and just about any time, if a restaurant takes reservations, they almost always have a link on the website. Many of these restaurants also will have English and Spanish versions of the webpage.
Mhm.
But if they don't, just look for Reserva. It's not that hard if you've made, you should be able to follow along.
Right.
And it's just really nice to be able to do it electronically. It's usually clicks through to Open Table or one of another reservation system that you're probably familiar with if you eat out in the US,
Yeah.
which is key because it's pretty intimidating to pick up a phone and
Mhm.
call a place if you don't speak Spanish.
Right.
So when you can do it electronically, it's a lot smoother. You also will get an electronic text or email confirmation, so you can make sure that you did it properly. Unlike on the phone where you have to make sure you hear exactly what they say. So
Yeah.
It's fairly straightforward.
Right. There are bars in Mexico City that require reservations. This is new to us. We spend a lot of time in bars and have been to some pretty high end of bars. I'm sure they exist out in the world, but I not really. I can't think of any that we've been impacted by. But the two big ones here for us that we've been to, there are others, but are Licoreria Limantor here in Roma Norte and Baltra Bar over in Condesa. Licoreria Limantor is always busy. You could walk by there at any time it's open. There will be packs of people everywhere, inside and out. I mean, maybe you could sneak in some off time, but I would make a reservation if that place is important to you. And then Baltra Bar is one of our favorite places in the area. They open at 6, and if you show up at 6 without a reservation, you can usually get in. A couple people, maybe 4 people, they leave a couple of areas open, but after that, it's over. And again, maybe you'll get lucky, but we've walked by many times, and no, no way. Both of these are absolutely worth it. Baltra Bar in particular is consistently rated one of the top bars in North America. It's really, really good. Okay, so what about sites? This is obviously important as well.
Yeah, sites are, one of the key reasons you travel to any place. And, if you're planning a trip to Mexico City, you're probably doing some of your research anyway. So you'll notice that some of the top sites, like the National Anthropology Museum, the Sumaya Museum, Chapultepec Castle, in most cases, you can just walk right in and you don't need to book those ahead of time, which is nice. It gives you a little flexibility in your schedule.
Yeah.
But other places are going to require some work. The Frida Kahlo Museum is really popular. You're going to want to make a reservation for that in advance. The National Palace, which we still have not seen because
the inside we've seen the outside of it.
Yes. You have to walk up that day with your passport and make a reservation for later in the day. So
right. We've struck out so many times. It's a part of it was COVID, the wake of COVID, but we'll get there on this trip. We keep saying, yeah. But anyway, not yet.
We will try.
Yeah.
The good news is the palace is right there at the Zocalo, so there are a lot of other things to do. But I would not leave that for your last day of your trip if you really want to see it. And then some of the experiences that we've had that have been most of the amazing ones in the city or around the city have required a reservation. The balloon rides over the pyramids of Teotihuacan, obviously. Yep. The canal tours of Xochimilco. If you want to do the sunrise tour, you book that ahead of time. If you want to do, the afternoon, evening party boats, you do not need a reservation for that. You can just show up.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, it depends, right? I mean, we have recommendations for both of those big events, those big experiences, which we could probably throw in the notes or whatever, and definitely will be in the book. But if we do this right, this will be one of the reasons you might want to buy the book, right? It's, just as a resource, because it's complicated and it's not always obvious. And it's interesting how there are different things that some of them absolutely require, but some of them don't with the reservation. So
some places they'll often ask if you have a reservation, but if you don't, they just get you right in anyway.
Yeah. Well, yeah, right. That happens in the US sometimes too.
Yeah.
It's interesting, but yeah, I think the basic advice here is if it's important to you, make sure if you can make a reservation, do it just so you don't miss out on it.
In almost every case, you can almost always cancel a reservation. So
right.
Book what you want, and if it doesn't work out, take that step.
Yeah. All right. I think that is it for this topic, at least for now. Thanks again to the Michelin Guide for making our lives complicated. We'll be back soon with another video. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.